Hey, good morning and happy Mother's Day, Grace Community Church family. So glad that you are all here. Thanks so much for joining us for church this morning. We are going to do something kind of unique, kind of special that we've been doing the past few weeks. We're going to go into a live Q&A time. So if you've got questions about QuaranTeam, about today's message, about how to not go crazy in the house with your family, we'll do our best. I don't know if we're the experts on that, but we'll do our best to answer all of your questions. We might not get to all of them, but I think I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Pastor Corey. I have the privilege of being the Newburgh pastor and getting to help out with our online campus and our online church experience. And I'm here live with Pastor Jeff Harrison. So Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself and your QuaranTeam?
Okay, awesome. You know what? I'm going to have my oldest daughter, Jody. She asked if she could introduce everyone. So Jody, why don't you go ahead? Talk loud.
This is my dad.
Yeah.
This is my mom.
Yeah.
My mom, yeah, Melody.
That's Melody. This is Jeff.
Harmony.
This is Harmony. This is Twisted.
You.
And I'm Jody.
Yep.
And you're Jody.
And
there's a baby somewhere, right?
Yeah, baby is sleeping right now.
Oh, praise God.
Very strategic nap. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, Middletown campus pastor. That was a great introduction, by the way, Jody. Excellent work. So Jeff is our Middletown campus pastor. And so we've got some questions here, Jeff. We're kind of just going to jump in. First question we have here, and you can keep dropping questions in the chat, and our team will address them and pass them over to me so I don't miss any. But first question here is from Reese, and it says, we're all imperfect beings, and when you experience times in your home that make you not so loving, what practical ways can you mend it, especially during this crisis where there's no practical way to take a break?
Wow.
So kind of throw that out there.
That's a great question, Reese. Did you want to?
One practical thing that's been helping me lately because okay, sweetheart. Okay, we'll get her in a minute. We lost Anna. Because having all the kids here doing school with them, definitely there's a new level of patience and grace that we have to have for each other. So heart, just like now. One thing that's been helping us is sending them to their room, or at least me, when I can't currently deal with whatever's going on with that child and someone else is having a crisis. I've been sending them to their room, and then I can go up there after a few minutes when things have calmed down and kind of talk with them through whatever has happened. It gives them a chance to kind of reflect and for both of us to cool down so that I don't do something that or say something that I regret just offhand or, like when I'm in the moment and real frustrated. So practically that's what's been helping me. And actually happened with this one the other day. And when I went to go check on her, she had fallen asleep. So I'm like, oh, well,
Win-win.
maybe you were tired.
That's awesome.
Hey,
It's 11 o'clock.
and I'm sorry about that. It's 9 o'clock.
It's 9 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock.
I was also thinking that, one of the things that I've noticed, especially from some of our older kiddos, is that they take notice of how we handle those. I forget how the question, when make you not so loving, when you experience those times make you not so loving, they take notice of how we mend it, and I think if we are, because we can't always, find that time to take a break, there's going to be those times when we make mistakes, maybe when we, our tone goes too high, or we do say something that we regret, that could be to a spouse or to one of the kiddos. But I think when we're quick to go back and apologize, and not just say something like, hey, I apologize, but to literally say, hey, listen, buddy, I'm really sorry for the way that I raised my voice, during that time. What you did was wrong, but the way I said it was not okay. Or to be able to say that to my wife, the way you came off really, really hurt me, really bothered me, but what I said was not okay. And to actually name it, not just kind of put some generic, I apologize, but to literally say, I'm sorry for doing this, and that, and so owning it for what, taking ownership for what you can take ownership of. And then also kind of, Pastor Jared mentioned, I think it was in week 1, I know he referenced it today, but the self-talk, that self-awareness, being able to take that time and say, okay, why did I lose my temper here, raise my voice? Why did I say that? And to be able to have that honest conversation, to deal with that, and be able to come back and to really deal with that internally, personally. I think that is huge. The scriptures say, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. Yeah. And I would love it. I would love it if there was like like an add-on there that said, and be quick to apologize. Yeah, I just think that is so important for us.
Yeah, that's so great, because I think it kind of just leads you into a kind of like a mutual, like it brings your both sets of feelings. Now sorry, I hear a feedback. I don't know if that's me or not, but it kind of puts you on level playing. Like when you step forward with the apology and with your feelings in a very vulnerable, open, and honest way, it creates a lot of space for those kinds of conversations. So I appreciate both your answers. Melody too. I like that it's okay to send the kids away. Like that. Thank you for acknowledging and like giving permission. I think a lot of times parents feel the need to like be perfect with their kids all the time. And to like have all the patience in the world. And there are just moments, and it's okay to just acknowledge, like, I need my kids not in this room with me right now, or I could, lose it. So I appreciate you you're kind of giving us that permission and kind of talking about that stuff. I have a question here from last service, and we didn't get to finish answering it. And I really love this question. I feel like it's a really great kind of, it just really relates, and I thought it would be a really awesome thing to kind of hear you guys talk on. It's from Steven, so from last service, but it says, what are some practical ways to get better at believing the best no matter what? So I think that has to do with marriage, but I think it kind of works with family too, just kind of in general, how believing the best, how can you practically take steps to improve there?
You want to start off? Or?
Me!
Go ahead.
Did you have something to say, Jody?
What do you say?
Okay. I saw the question last service, and I immediately thought of, my mind went like organizational leadership, like immediately, but then I feel like it's also so relevant when it comes to the family, because I think one of the things that we have to become so much better at is filling those gaps of, uncertainty, or I'm not sure what they meant there, or just not knowing what to do. I think we need to just practice filling those gaps with trust. Not assuming the worst, but believing the best. As we've been talking about, I feel like that answers that question in a nutshell, but in so many practical ways. Just assuming the best, not going through the worst. I must annoy them. They're lazy. They don't care about me. Not assuming the worst, but assume the best. Believe the best. I don't know. Did you want to add anything there?
Kind of like what you were saying. We're just, by human nature, we're selfish. So we're mostly just thinking about what we like and our own needs. And so if someone is annoying you just, to believe the best, I think, is, well, Jeff's not even thinking about how I'm feeling about this. He's just kind of in his own world, his own bubble, or, maybe the kids, like they're just kind of thinking about what they want in the moment. So in a way, it's like, it sounds kind of negative, but you just got to remember that we're all human and we all have those faults where we're not necessarily doing something to be rude to another person. We're just kind of stuck in our own autopilot mode. Mm. And that's easy to do with your family, to kind of.
Well, especially with the people that you're around all the time. It's easy to kind of like, I think Pastor Jared talked about it in week 1, maybe of QuaranTeam, where it's it's a true the true depiction of your love is how well you love the people around you. But sometimes it's so easy to slip into autopilot, even with the people you love. So thinking of yourself before all of them, just because you're around them all the time. So leading and like believing the best by first acknowledging your own selfishness. That's like really like primo tip, because I think each of us, and honestly, in a lot of marriages that when I have conversations with married couples who are struggling or families who are struggling, most always at the core of the conversation is a perspective of selfishness, and it's not in like a negative or like I'm not demeaning way. It's just we kind of naturally all default to our own best or our own self-interests, and then being able to recognize that, and then like turning and looking in the mirror and having like I look so selfish or I sound so selfish kind of conversation. That's really cool. It's really helpful. So really practical. Thank you for being so practical. Another question, and I just want to acknowledge there's lots of really cool stuff in the chat. Everyone is happy to see you. They love how real your home and your family is, like with the kids just kind of like running around. I think it's so great. So
It's real life.
it's real life. And so I thank you for, bringing your real life to this Q&A. So another question, it's from Anonymous, but it says, how do I white knuckle and endure when my heart is so broken that I can't stand to look at my partner? So I think there's some context missing, so we'll kind of own it there. But I think it's I think the phrase white knuckle and hanging on. How do you do that when there is so much pain in your heart? Do you have any advice, practical tips, or maybe even just some scriptural guidance for this person?
I've never really felt too strongly like against someone like that. But there was one time in college where I had a professor that just like annoyed me to no end. I knew she meant well. She had a great heart, but we were just very different personalities. And I struggled with that. And I had a lot of her classes. So I'm like, all right, God, I'm going to be around this lady a lot. Like, can you just help me? And I prayed a lot about having a love for her like Jesus does. And that was just kind of like my prayer constantly. And before I knew it, it was like I had a love for her like Jesus did. It was crazy. Like, I don't know why it's crazy. That's what I prayed for. But it was just like this supernatural love that I had for her. And it ended up being a great relationship that we formed. So, I mean, if anything, I would just say pray that God helps you to love them the way he does, or to see them in a new way. And I know that won't fix everything, but it could definitely give you a new level of grace for them.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and I would just kind of say, kind of based on what Mel is saying right there, I think it's imperative to be able to, stick around in a relationship, like that, and not just stick around, but to be the salt and light, to love like Christ would want us to love there. I think I don't want to oversimplify this, and I apologize if this answer says that, but I don't think it's possible to do that without Jesus, being, on that throne of your heart. I don't think it's possible to love like that. Again, I don't mean to oversimplify and without knowing, context, but Jesus really does change everything. That's not just something we throw around. He does. He changes us. He changes our hearts. He helps us endure and keeps going. And that 1 Corinthians 13 love we've been talking about, it doesn't happen by thinking positive thoughts and having good intentions. It happens by Jesus Christ being on the throne of your heart.
Yeah. No, that's great. I was going to ask Jody if she had any thoughts on there. She's like, what? I was going to say, how do you love some of your siblings when you're struggling? How does Jesus work in your heart to like practically love, or maybe be patient with your siblings or your mom and dad? Anything you do?
You want to speak up?
The wheels are turning.
No pressure. We can come back to it. I just thought so often on these questions when I'm spinning my wheels to try and come up with
Like, how do you love people when they're hard to love? Like when someone's mean to you, says something hurtful.
How do you forgive Harmony when she's done something that makes you upset?
Maybe we'll come back.
Yeah, we can come back to it. I can see her spinning her wheels there. I just know kids usually have the greatest answers to those things. Like,
Yeah.
I love so I'm interested in her perspective there. But we can keep going. We've got some more questions. How do you? This question's from Must, MUSS. I hope I'm saying that right. But the question is, how do you avoid becoming resentful when someone has hurt you?
How do you avoid becoming resentful? Someone's hurt you.
There's Barbie stuff in here.
Hey, honey, can we wait, please? Wow. Anything there, Jody?
I wanted that.
I honestly, and I would go back, to some of the statements that Pastor Jared has mentioned. He talked about having a long fuse instead of a short fuse. I love that statement. Love is a rock, it's a roof, it's a refuge. Love is safe. People are going to hurt us. Yes, how do you avoid becoming resentful when someone has hurt you? And just kind of starting at that place where who's our own worst enemy. It's always me. I'm the most difficult person to lead. I have to look inward before I point at anyone else. And when people hurt us, my response and my reaction always has to be where I start. And from there, again, I think Jesus being on the throne of our heart, he, leaning on him, abiding in him, remaining in him, gives us the grace, gives us the strength to love out of that. And, constantly reminding ourselves, wow, my sin is what put, Christ on the cross. I'm responsible for that. I don't know, did you have anything to add there? That's a great question.
Well, mine's not as deep as that, but one thing that came to mind, I'm an acts of service kind of girl. That was adoration pretty high up for me. But I remember kind of venting to my friend once about, I'm getting ready for this first birthday party for my child, and my husband's not doing anything, or the day of the party, I got so frustrated because I'm ping-ponging around trying to make sure everything's together, and she was like, "Girl," her kids are a little bit older than ours. She was like, "I learned this a long time ago, and if you learn this, it will help you. Have very low expectations for your spouse when it comes to like throwing a party or anything. Just assume you're not going to do
it."
I can hear the bus backing over Jeff right now.
Wow. Do you hear that, everyone in the chat? Do you hear that, everyone? Just have super low expectations.
I love you, but for real, like acts of service. Like I really want someone to help me out, even though I might not verbalize and like lay out the exact things that I need help with. I've gotten better at learning how to do that, but I don't know. That just really helped me to think of it like, all right, then I need to not assume this for him, or I'm the one that said I want to throw this party. He didn't necessarily. So why am I acting like he needs to be, co-leader with me? So I don't know, just kind of like putting it more on myself and not trying to blame someone else for it not going the way that I wanted it to was helpful. I'm like, oh, you're right. So if I just have lower expectations, then he's just going to like rise above and like save the day. And he always does awesome with parties. Like he's like the kids. I'm sorry. My son is listening to this next to us and I hear myself. No, like he always is the one that everyone like wants to hang around. So
I don't think that's true.
But where was the question?
Yeah.
It's gone now. But
it was about, just not being resentful.
And then you have nothing to like hold against them because you're like, and anything you do extra is a bonus.
Well, I think it speaks to one of the A lot of people in the chat are really resonating with what you're saying, Melody, lowering expectations for the husband. So I appreciate that. I hope my wife is tuning in. No, but I think it speaks to one of the larger issues in marriage and in family life is not just low expectations or measured them, but also unspoken. I think is like the unspoken expectation, at least for Sarah and I, so often was the point of conflict. It was when we both had an expectation, high or low, it didn't matter. Sometimes mine was way too high and hers was way, and just the complete miss that was created all the tension and then eventual resentment. So being able to level your expectations with one another, like, measuring against each other, I think is a great tactic. Yeah, lots of people echoing, communicating. Everybody loves your kids. There's lots of shout outs for the Harrison family. Lots of love. But we've got about 1 minute left. So thank you guys so much for being available to answer questions, being real with us. Anything you guys want to say? Anything, Jody, you want to say goodbye to everybody for us?
Bye.
And final happy Mother's Day to everybody. Thanks again so much for being here. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
I need to say something.
Yeah.
My dad had a girlfriend named Chelsea.
In college. All right.
No, it's not.
Happy Mother's Day.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible.